Yeah, all the yellow trees that leaves used to be up there, are now on the ground. So that's about it. I think everything is fallen that's falling. So anyway, into Kantavad video. At the end of the video, he poses the question. The question is not why some of us choose to live, it's why some of us choose to die, or whatever. And why somebody choose to die, or blah, blah, blah. And it's really not about that. Whether you live or die, it's about procreating. Again, replicating, imposing on a new version of this nonsense. Certainly we live our lives as, playing with the fire and the gooey stuff. I don't know, the alternative to the burning, whatever that would be, that's not cold and nasty. We play in ecstasy and the agony. There's there's a game to be played once you're here playing. But yeah, the real issue is that the advantage is to never get caught up in it. That's the the best you can do. And there can be an argument for you're only setting yourself up. You're just the longer you're in the game, the harder it's going to be when the straws crack and the back breaks and all that kind of crap. It's you're more invested. The more people you know, the more people there are to lose. The more, it's a very insidious game we're playing. Very difficult to do it profitably for yourself and productively for the world. And the best thing you can do is, now don't do it. Certainly don't create more of it. It's the more interesting question. It's the question you have some control over. You have little control over the once you're here thing, because even if you want to get out, getting out isn't easy. It's a little tricky getting through that door. You have to do things to the body that you don't want to do, that no right-minded person would want to do. You have to muster up an insidious kind of courage to take that fatal step into, your oblivion. And it's difficult to do. It's difficult circumstantially in the sense that it's not the right time. I can, a couple hours maybe. We're just, who wants to do that? Who wants to face that? Who wants that burden at any time if they can put it off another few hours, another day, another week? And that's certainly our tendency, and we see it in people who are in quite desolate circumstances, and they'll cling merely because they can. They just don't want to let go because this doesn't seem inviting from a living thing's perspective. And we know that's psychology at play, and we should concede to that. But when we're going to have a conversation about the meaningful issues of our existence, of what we are doing, the question of our mortality is wrapped in so many layers. I mean, obviously it's also circumstantial. At any moment something can arise, a very bad diagnosis from a doctor, and all of a sudden I kill myself. Well, did I commit suicide, or did I just, rationally evade something worse than death? Does it make me depressive? Does it make me this? Does it make me that? Because I can recognize the difference between, death and a fate worse than death? Yeah, I think that doesn't mean anything. But people will make it mean something. They'll qualify and describe and say what a person's was because of some stupid circumstance, by which they judged it a good time to get it done with. It has some economics to it, some sense. Anyway, but this question of replicating is so separate and so much more controllable. It's just a simpler impulse, especially men. I mean, they don't, they don't have any ticking biological clock. I certainly don't think as they get older they have any, fond desire, any horniness, to be playing with dirty diapers and shit. So what could be the, it's just a simple bit of ego bullshit to get over. The urgency and necessity. There's nothing emotionally visceral, that has to be resolved in terms of conceding that, you don't really need this bullshit. And it's obvious in behavior that that's the tendency. And it's just that there's just such a daisical inability for society to acknowledge that truth, because it offends God and it offends the function of the biology. And you're not allowed to do that. And so it's like placating drunkenness in a society where they're dangerous. Well, you wouldn't do that. There's a danger to this reckless procreation. It's not just some simple act. It's not you folded a piece of paper or something the wrong way. It's not a minor trespass against logic. It's a major trespass. This should be acknowledged, recognized, established as, if we intend to do anything about it. And clearly the intellectuals have done something about it for themselves. The educated have less children. They understand not only the personal sacrifice of the obligation, but I think that a good majority of them understand the complex jeopardy that they would be putting this next generation in. That it isn't a good enough nest, isn't a good enough world for their creation to play in. It's not safe or well formed, and they have an obligation to do better. But yeah, if the smart people don't tell the dumb people, and they're dumb, and they're making bad choices, then they'll just continue doing as they're doing, and nothing good will happen. Ooh, there's a whole herd of them up here. Ooh, a good place to end. I have to pass the horror. Anyway, well, the next evil installment and such. Yeah. Well, next time, gotta run. And such. Alright, I guess I'll add a little bit. I think I'm adding anyway. Yeah. So the question isn't to be or not to be. The question is to impose or not to impose. That's it. That's all it is. And it's plain and simple a question. If you know it's a weird, gnarly bag of, mixture, then don't play with it. If you have some real intelligence, if you have a little real knowledge, you know that most of the stuff that makes you happy only makes you happy because of a hole, a deprivation inside of you. You need, and you don't need for good reasons, you need for bad reasons. And why would you impose that on somebody? They're not going to play the game well or with any character unless they create holes in them, like the holes in you. And why do that? Again, the question is so easy to answer. And for most of human history, it wasn't an easy to answer question. Imposing just happened to be a consequence of the most important physical act a human could perform. Baking, brownies. No. The romantic act. And to take that away would be unthinkable for most humans. To be denied that ecstasy and pleasure wouldn't be acceptable. But now there's no obligation to tie these things together. And the to impose or not to impose question doesn't have to have anything to do with the, to ecstasy or not to ecstasy. It just doesn't. And so our whole vocabulary ought to be matured a little to make acknowledgement that there's no obligation or necessity or inevitability to this act of imposing. It's a willful act, an arrogant act in the face of a mess. Yeah, it's forcing somebody else's foot into the undertow and saying it's all going to be okay. Trust me, it'll be fun. You'll enjoy it. Yeah, you'll get sloshed around and spun around, and maybe you'll get killed horribly. But if you don't, you're going to say, wow, that was fun. Let's do it again. I mean, it just, there's nowhere to derive authority, rational qualification, rational justification. It's only through irrational arrogance that somebody can shove somebody's foot into this undertow called life. Yeah, it's just the truth. It's just a fact. And it ought to be said out loud so people understand it. And they don't have the excuses anymore. Well, the bitch wanted a kid. Yeah, well, I just wanted to make the bitch happy. Whatever the bullshit is. The excuses. Anyway, I believe that's enough. I could drag it out for another 5 minutes for sure, but no need. Made my point. It's cold. And I'm getting more irritable by the moment. Just thinking about it. Yes, I'll stop doing that. I'll stop talking about it and I'll stop thinking about it. Yeah, that'll work. Anyway, till next time.